Hello and welcome to the build along tutorial for the JFET Boost. So in this video we're going to be going through each step on making the JFET Boost. This circuit is in the lineage of the classic EP booster, which we see from Exotic and a lot of other companies that make EP style, essentially the preamp of the Echoplex. This has got a couple tweaks in it, mostly for the tone control, but that's kind of the spirit, and you're gonna probably want to do some of your own tweaks. So let's get into it and build the Echoplex preamp and get into step one right now. Alright, it's like every other one we have and no exception. We're gonna be doing our power filtering for step one, but we also have in this first step here, we also have a voltage reference that we're gonna have to get to. So let's start assembling our main power filtering. Alright, so we have our positive and negative rails connected. We're going to be using black wire for this build, and we've got to do our power filtering section, which is our polarity shunt diode and a couple of capacitors. So let's do our diode first. Bend this guy over like we normally do. Snip these legs a little shorter. And remember, these are polarized, so we're actually going to be putting them in the opposite orientation with a negative, the negative lead in the power rail, because this is actually going to prevent if you have reverse polarity. So we've got our negative into the red and our positive into the blue. What we need to do next is grab our 100U. So we've got a 100 and a 47 in this. The 100, you can tell, is just a little bit beefier. It'll also say it on it. Next, we're going to identify the legs. We know that the shorter leg and the strip is our negative. We need to keep these polarized, otherwise you're going to get a fun explosion on your end. So we're going to place this cap here. We've got our positive into our VCC rail, our negative lead into our ground rail, and the last thing that we're going to need is our 47N cap, which we're going to place right next to our electrolytic. Lovely. So there we are, we've got our main filtering, but now what we're going to have to do is do a VR network. So when we get to Q2, we're going to be working with a VR network, which is going to be our reference voltage. That's going to be, in this case, exactly half of our main voltage, so half of 9 is 4.5, that's going to be our reference voltage. So to make our voltage divider, you're going to see in the schematic it's going to be R3 and 4. Those are just a pair of 10Ks and a 47U capacitor. Those are going to be our voltage dividing components. So what we got to do is we got to grab our 10Ks, snip their leads down a little bit, and now we're actually going to be building on the opposite side of the power rail, or opposite side of the breadboard rails in this power section. And the reason we're building it here is so that it can easily get to the second transistor, which is going to be later in our gain staging. So we've got our first transistor going from power rail into the audio section. I'm going to grab our second transistor. Our second resistor. We're going to jump a couple rows over here. Just like that. Now next what we're going to do is actually place our ground connection. So the ground is simply going to go to the last resistor. So let's take a look at what we have going on. So we've got power going through our 10K and making a series connection at the next 10K. This 10K is jumping over to ground. So here we've got 9, here we've got 0, and in the middle we've got our 4.5. We're almost done. We just got to get our bypass cap for stability and filtering on the 4.5 section. We're going to bend these a little bit, just like this. Long side, short side. Still going to snip them a little bit because we have to jump over a couple rails. Remember, these are polarized, so we want our negative to go to the black wire here. And there we go. So now we've got our 4.5 voltage point here with our power filtering. All right, so that's going to complete it for step 1 for filtering and VR, and let's get into step 2 for our input stage. All right, so we are at the beginning stages here for the JFET Boost. We are going to do a little bit of our input. Pretty common suspects here. We're going to need our input cap and a couple resistors. So we're going to grab some wire. You can grab any color you have. We're going to be using black for this build. We're going to jump from our input. We're going to get into our design area. So here we are. We're jumping from the input, and I'm jumping this many rails specifically, or this many rows specifically, so that I can make a straight shot with our pull-down resistor for R1. And speaking of, here we go. We've got our 1 meg. Remember to follow your color guides that are in the beginning of each build guide if you need to know how to read resistors. You can also just follow along with the colors if you're able. Alright, so we've got our 1 meg. This is going to be our input pull down for popping and setting our impedance. That's going to go to ground. Just like that. Next, we're going to go right over to our coupling capacitor. That's going to be our input cap, allowing AC to go but blocking DC, setting some tone at the beginning, how much bass is allowed. There we go. And the last thing that we have to do here in this input stage, this is a pretty simple stage. We just have a series resistor at the input before going to Q1. That's going to be our 33K. We are going to snip this guy. We're going to just jump a couple rows here. Alright, there we go. So, now we've got our input, we've got our impedance pull-down resistor going through our coupling capacitor into a series resistor, and that's going to be it for step 2. So let's kind of get into the heart of this with our first gain stage. Alright, so here we are, step 3. We're going to be connecting to our JFET, our gain stage, our first stage. This is where the magic's going to be happening. So, parts needed for this are going to be our potentiometer, our JFET, couple caps, couple resistors, and some wire. So, we got to first get to our transistor stage. So we're using a 113 here. This is a standard N-channel JFET. And like I've mentioned in previous videos, when these are kind of like the core of what stuff's built around, I want to try to leave space to them, use wire to get to it, to leave yourself space for modding, changing, even adding a resistor in place of wire, or vice versa. So these are going to kind of be the heart of it. So what we're going to actually do is we're going to give ourselves a little space. We're not going to go right to our starting point, even though that's where we have to come from. So we're placed there, that's good. what we need to do is start putting in our components. What we want to do next, actually, you want to free up a little bit of space here, just by simply moving this down. And again, you guys could move this diode over here if you wanted. You can move it down to this row. This is just where we have it right now. The reason I moved it is because I just need a little bit of space for a biasing resistor here. So what we got to do is we need to find another 1 meg resistor. So we have another 1 meg that we have to dump our signal line to ground before it goes to our FET's gate pin. And we are going to do that right here. Okay. Just clean that up a little bit. So there we go. We've got the end of our 33K has that 1 meg going to ground. That's going to set right before the gate. So let's get over to the gate. That's going to be the rightmost leg if you're looking at the flat side. So a quick jump, just like that. Right at this junction of the 33K, right over, we have DSG, that's drain source gate. Gate's going to be our input for this. So now that we've got our signal to our JFET, let's bias this a little bit. We need to find a 10K. So here we are. This 10K is going to bias at our drain. Remember, we just said DSG, so DSG, we're going to be biasing this from our VCC line and connecting right to our drain. There we go. Now the next thing we have to do for stability in this, we have to get from our source, which is our middle pin, that's going to have to get to ground. So we're going to go with R6, which is a 4.7K, and we need to connect the middle pin to our ground rail. And we're going to sneak it right here. There we go. Partners in crime. So we've got our left leg going to our VCC line and our middle leg going to our ground line. All right, but we're not done there. What we need to do now is we have to get to the fun part, the gain control. So we are going to need a 10U electrolytic, and we're going to need a B5K. We've got that here. We're going to give ourselves some room, so we're going to jump this channel, and we're going to work down here. So, grab some wire. Let's jump directly from the source, which is our middle pin. We're going to jump over, and next we need to grab a 10K. We're going to space these legs out just a little bit, like this. Again, we have a polarity here. Long is positive, short is negative. We're going to come out of the positive, and we're going to jump over a couple rails, or a couple rows, I should say. Just like that. We've got positive feeding into negative. Okay. Now, that negative is where we're going to get pin 1 on our potentiometer. Legs are 1, 2, 3. Now that they're away from us, it's 3, 2, 1. We're going to place this gain potentiometer right there so that it mates with the negative side of our electrolytic. Next, what we need to do is have pins 1 and 2 jumped to each other, and then 3 is going to ground. So, we got some wire. Again, we're jumping 1 to 2. Like that. So there we go, 1 to 2. Now we want to go 3 to 4, or not, no 4, 4 is ground here, 3 to ground. So we're jumping out of that. Let's actually move this over just a little bit, just to keep it cleaner. There we go. All right, so let's do a quick review. We're going out of our source, middle pin, jumping the channel. We're going to the positive of the electrolytic. The negative is going to pin 1. Pin 1 is jumping to 2 through wire. Pin 3 is going directly to ground. Now this is going to control our gain of the transistor. In this case, the 113 we were talking about. All right, so now that we have that set up, we have one last thing for step 3, which is our output capacitor. We're going to be tying this to our drain. And now you'll see why the capacitor, you'll see why the transistor is set up this way, because our drain is the far left. So we're going to grab a little bit of wire. So like I was saying, I often jump to and from these semiconductors to give ourselves space. Here we go. Now we just need there we go. Let's make sure we get a good connection here. Electrolytics can be a bit tricky. All right. So we've got our output, which is our drain, or the left pin, jumping some wire to the positive side, and then we're going to leave off here. That's going to be where we're going to come back, and we're going to do that in step 4. All right, so here we are. Step 4, this is going to be our tone control that is between transistor 1 and transistor 2. You don't normally see this on this circuit, but I thought it'd be fun to implement. So it's going to be a passive tone control, just going to roll off lows. It's going to be rolling off the highs here before it gets to the final stage. It's going to be a pretty simple RC circuit, kind of like you'd see in like a rat style pedal. So where did we leave off? We left off here at the negative side of this electrolytic capacitor, and let's keep the fun going. Let's grab a little bit of wire and open up the playing field here a little bit. All right, so next we have a 1K resistor, and this is going to be a series resistor in line with our audio. We're going to be placing that right here, and that's going to be feeding into our tone control here, which is going to be a B25K. So we got to get to that. We want to find lug 1. That's here, and we're going to be mating with the end of this series resistor. So we're going to flip this around just like this. Place that in my breadboard right there. Perfect. Now we're at pin 1. Now pin 1 has to jump to 2. So we're going to do that just like this. All right, now pin 3 is going to be our output, and we're going to need to jump away from it so we have a little bit of breathing room. There we go. So quick review. After our capacitor, we have a series resistor, 1K, going to pin 1 of the pot, 1 and 2 jump, pin 3 is our output. Now this is where we're going to get to our cap so that it's having a reference to do all of the math for what this stage is going to be for our filtering. So this we need to get to ground, and I typically don't jump film caps directly to ground. I'll use a little bit of wire. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to kind of what looks like we're doubling back, and from there jumping to ground just like this. There we go. So now we've come out of the potentiometer to here, and that's going to ground, and then we're going to have the rest of the circuit continue. So next we need to get away from this a little bit. Now, here's going to be the reason we did our VR network down here, is because we need to attach this, the end of this wire, to our VR network. So you can see that they're exactly lined up in a row, just outside of the channel. So that's going to be a 1 meg resistor that we jump from our VR network to our audio line here. Gorgeous. Okay, so that's going to be the end of the journey for step 4 before we get to our output stage. And let's get into that one right now. All right, we've made it step 5. We are at the output buffer stage. That's going to be Q2. We're just going to need a few parts, a couple resistors, an electrolytic, and our transistor, which is going to be a 2N5088, a common NPN BJT. We're going to go right to this part first. We're going to part the legs a little bit, and we're going to keep the flat side facing us, the builder. Now where our circuit left off, right here where we were getting this 1 meg, that's going to be feeding the bias on the base. The base is our middle leg, so we need our transistor to place right here with that 1 meg line right at the base leg. Okay. So, there we are. Alright, so now we've got this line at the base. So we've got emitter, base, collector. EBC, left to right from the flat side. So we're actually going to hook power directly up to the collector with some wire. We're going to go directly from our VCC line to the collector. Again, you can do this with any color wire you got. If you want to have it be red, and you have red, use it. Alright, there we go. We fed direct from VCC to our collector. Now that's done. Everything else is going to be on the emitter. This is an emitter follower network for our output. So next thing we have to do is actually tie our emitter to ground via a 10K. So we've got a couple parts here. We've got looks like 100 ohm, 47K, and there's our 1K. Sorry, 10K. So we've got our 10K. This is going to be setting our bias at the emitter. This is going to go directly to ground from the emitter. There we are. So that's a 10K from the emitter to ground. Next, we're going to go to our output coupling capacitor. That's going to be a 10U. Remember to be cognizant of our polarity. This one has a little bit more of a stretch to make, so we're going to stretch this a little bit. Great. Now, after that, we have a 100 ohm at the output. That's going to be in series directly after the negative of our electrolytic cap. There we go. Electrolytic cap is going to feed directly into the 100 ohm. And now the 100 ohm, that's our output. All we have to do is a simple pull down resistor at the output. In this case, is going to be a 47K. That's going to tie to ground. That's our pull down. And now all we have left is a single piece of wire to jump to our main output pins. And there you have it. So this is a JFET Boost, a variable gain on the source of the FET, feeding a simple RC network for low-pass filtering into an emitter follower stage on a BJT right to the output. Something that you can definitely modify if need be. You can mess with the tone control. You can adjust stuff at the gain stage as well. The biasing. Really just have fun with it. You could probably even add some clipping there if you wanted to. You can maybe add it in the middle, like before the tone control. I'd suggest maybe trying it after C7. But yeah, hopefully you had fun on this build making the JFET Boost, and thanks for tuning in, being here with us. We appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next one.